Because there still is so little understanding of what's actually going on between Israel and Palestine historically, present day. There's so much misunderstanding and confusion. And again, your film brings intelligence, clarity, humor, but also a message that is completely relatable and understandable. I connected with thoroughly. I wonder if you could just say in your own words what you feel this story is conveying. Noam is telling us in her comedy show. What is it that we should take away from this movie?
Well, I think, first of all, Noam's moral clarity is so clear. Like, I think that, Noam, and Noam often says, again, it's one thing that I like to bring up in all of the interviews, is that, Noam recognizes that there are audience members that feel a bit more comfortable hearing Noam's message because it's coming from an Israeli Jew. And, Noam will say that everything that she knows and has learned, she's learned from her Palestinian neighbors and friends and educators, and that she's not saying anything new, and encourages the audience to seek out Palestinian voices. And I think that, right now this year, this film is in a collection of films. There were 5 films actually that were shortlisted, or films by Arab filmmakers that were listed. But I think, as we know, there is, Palestine 36 and All That Is Left of You and Hind Rajab, which is literally an like a full-on education of Palestine, a historical education of Palestine from 1936 to present, which I think is so important. And I think, where Noam really adds to that is, I think that where no challenges is like in the framing of how we talk about this conflict. There's a line in the film that Noam says at the end, where how can we coexist when we don't recognize Palestinians' right to exist in their home, in their land, in their homeland. And I think that that's like such an important line, because we are so conditioned to think about Israeli security, to think about Israel's right to exist, like asking every Palestinian if Israel has a right to exist. And it's not Israel that is at risk of existing. It's Palestine and Palestinians. And I think we have to ask ourselves, like, do Palestinians not have the right to exist? And do they not have the right to their own self-determination like everybody else in the world? Noam says it so brilliantly. And coexistence, it does not happen between an oppressor and an oppressed. It happens between equals. And I think that it's a really important message, especially when we see, the powers that be that are dividing up Gaza right now. Their Palestinians are not involved in the determination of either what is happening in the West Bank or what is happening in Gaza. And I'm hoping that audiences are coming to see that. I think that right now, because people have watched, this genocide over the last 3 years, that there is a increased interest in Palestine and understanding like what has happened and how we got to this point. And I also think it's really important for us right now is to watching what is happening in Minnesota, and sort of recognizing that a lot of the weapons and the crowd control and the surveillance that has been used on Palestinians for decades is now coming back and being used on American citizens. It's called imperial boomerang. And, all of these issues are so interconnected, and it's more important than ever for us to be demanding the rights of Palestinians, but also across the world. Like, if this isn't, it's not a singular issue anymore.
Yes, coexistence cannot happen between oppressor and oppressed, and it applies everywhere in the world. And I'm so happy that it's so clear in your film. We really hope your film is seen by audiences everywhere, and we want to do all we can to help you get it out there and get it seen. And we'll post all the screenings. Thank you so much for making this film.